All right, everybody, welcome to Talking Taker, episode number 38 of our encyclopedic exploration, digging up the career of the greatest professional wrestling character of all time. My name is Alex Doriot. I want to thank you for joining us for yet another round of Dead Man Talking, and I am one of your co-hosts, one of the creatures of the night, and I am joined by my tag team partner, my wrestling buddy, Travis White. And Travis, my man, I'm so disappointed today. We were so close to getting Undertaker versus Ahmed Johnson's left butt cheek. Man, just a couple weeks away from seeing that epic matchup we've been building to for weeks and weeks, and unfortunately, we're not going to get it. Are you as heartbroken as I am?
I am. I was looking forward to covering a match where Ahmed's butt cheek was exposed for 12 to 15 minutes, but yeah, heartbroken as we're gonna break down here in your house 16 Canadian Stampede. Unfortunately, Ahmed's on his good run of bad luck again, and card's subject to change. Plans to take a turn for possibly the worst. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Well,
we'll talk about it here.
I mean, before we get to that, you talk about cards subject to change. Let's just talk for a few minutes about what happened a week ago with the greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view. We just want to cover this real quick. We'll cover it in a couple years from now when we hit it in our encyclopedic exploration of The Undertaker's matches. But since it just happened, and since we've done that with The Undertaker's other appearances as we've been going along, we'll just spend a couple minutes giving our opinions on a match I honestly thought I would never see. The Undertaker versus Rusev in a casket match on Rusev Day of all days.
I know.
It was originally announced as Undertaker versus Rusev, switched to Undertaker versus Chris Jericho for a hot minute, switched back to Undertaker versus Rusev, and it somehow lasted longer than the Undertaker's WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
This is just, looking back on it, looking back on it a week later, it's really weird. Looking back on it a few years from now, it's going to be crazy to think that this match happened. But just in a bubble, with a quick and dirty little summary, what did you think of The Undertaker putting away Rusev in a casket match in front of 100,000 Saudi Arabians?
100,000?
It looked like a lot of people.
Oh,
I didn't count
bad guys with swords. Anyway, that was my little Aladdin. I thought it was fun, honestly. I'm glad Rusev got a good payday off of it. I'm sure he did. He got to be in a featured spot, not just jabroni in the Rumble, like that giant sumo wrestler guy that came out of nowhere, or Hornswoggle, or Titus O'Neil's bump of the century. But anyway, I thought it was good. It was fun. The crowd loved seeing Undertaker. That was really fun, and I'm just going to say that Aiden English took a stiff ski tombstone, man. He landed on his head. I mean, it looked rough, but it was fun. It was a fun little match. Again, I don't want to break down too much because we'll get to it in a couple years here on the podcast, but I enjoyed it. It was a fun little nostalgia act for us because he's going back to the crypt here and pulling out a coffin or a casket. So that was fun to see. We haven't seen one of those in a long time. So it was really neat and fun, in my opinion. How about you? What'd you think about it?
Yeah, my only complaint would be, I wish we gotten a little bit of build-up before it.
Sure.
There was a little bit on Twitter, but you know what this match needed? It needed some of those old-school Undertaker casket match promos where he's handcrafting Rusev's casket with a Bulgarian flag on the top of it or something like that.
Or like the inside has like Rusev Day in it or something,
yes.
Like the lining.
That would have taken it over the top. But, it was good for what it was. I think this is about the best we can expect from The Undertaker in 2018 and beyond.
Sure.
We should not be getting our hopes up for some WrestleMania 25 or 26 level match, or even like 29 against CM Punk. I mean, I think those days have passed, and that's fine. He's 53, 54 years old at this level, bad knees, bad legs, bad everything. But as we said on the WrestleMania episode, if he's certainly earned the right to go out and do these types of matches and have fun if he wants to, and give a little rub to Rusev. Like, it's really cool that Rusev gets to say he had a casket match with
Exactly.
The Undertaker. I mean, can you imagine 20 years ago? Rusev would have been an incredible opponent for The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Man. He seems like a heel that is 20 years too late. You know, he would have fit in perfectly in the new generation or even in the Hogan era. So it was really cool to see him go up against a guy of that era. And my only other thought was going back to that Aiden English thing, taking that tombstone. You know, look, when you ban the tombstone and when you ban the pile driver, guys aren't used to taking it. You know, like back in the day, the tombstone wasn't an unsafe thing because guys took that bump all the time. You took it over and over again. Aiden English, if he has ever taken that bump, he probably took it 5, 6, 7 years ago. He hadn't taken a bump like that in ages. And so, he's probably not going to take it right. So, you know, it's not the Undertaker's fault. It's honestly the WWE's fault for not letting guys take that sort of bump or get trained to it. It's not necessarily an unsafe bump unless you don't know how to do it. And you don't know how to do it if you don't do it every night. So
very true. He dropped him on his stack of dimes, so that's for sure.
Yeah.
I felt the tingle in my spine when I saw that. I was like, oh, and it hurt to watch. So anyway,
we will cover that one day down the road, and any more Undertaker matches.
Episode 188 or something.
We'll continue to have. That's right. And we can talk about just the strangeness of the Greatest Royal Rumble and all the, you know, controversies and political aspects of it. We're not going to jump into that here. I have thoughts. Travis, you may have thoughts. I don't know. But we're just talking about The Undertaker and his matches, and we're going to talk about another match right here at Canadian Stampede in your house, 1997. Not against Ahmed Johnson, but against Big Van Vader, the Mastodon, the man they call Vader.
Is they WCW when they say that?
Oh, maybe so.
The man they call Vader.
I've always wondered who they is.
Yeah,
maybe
I think it's WCW. I think so.
Man, I'm glad you brought up WCW because that goes right into a point I wanted to make before we jump into this. Last time we talked about a July pay-per-view was July 1996 in your house international incident when Undertaker faced Goldust in a dreadful match. And we talked
that's when they went international to Vancouver, right?
Right, the international incident. Yeah. We talked about how that pay-per-view was just dreadful, and it was WWF was putting on a 6-man tag up against WCW's 6-man tag at a pay-per-view of that same month with the NWO and the debut and the third man, that whole storyline, and just how WCW had lapped the WWF at this period creatively. It's what everyone was into. I've mentioned, I was a WWF guy, but at this time I was all in on WCW. WWF was an afterthought for me. I cared about WCW and the NWO. So that got me thinking as we hit July of this year and we hit Canadian Stampede, which is kind of universally renowned and praised as one of the best WWF pay-per-views of all time. I was wondering, what did it go up against with WCW with their offering? This Canadian Stampede has Undertaker versus Vader, and of course that famous 10-man tag with the Hart Foundation versus Stone Cold, Legion of Doom, Goldust, Ken Shamrock. WCW, at the same time, they put on their Bash at the Beach pay-per-view, and their lineup was a little bit different this year. They were in full swing of the NWO storyline, and so they had Roddy Piper against Ric Flair, Scott Hall and Randy Savage versus DDP and Kurt Hennig. And then on top was Lex Luger and the Giant versus Hollywood Hogan and Dennis Rodman. So, I don't think that Bash at the Beach 97 has that same aura about it as Bash at the Beach 96, but you just look at the star power there with WCW. Right. They're still clearly on top. They're still in the midst of the 83 weeks, the famous 83 weeks that they're crushing the WWE and the competition. But looking back historically, everyone remembers Canadian Stampede. Everyone looks back at that as one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time. Me and you, we talked before the show, did either one of us remember what was on the card at Bash at the Beach 97? No.
Nope. I knew it was Hogan versus somebody, but I didn't know who it was. So.
Exactly. And I think this is symbolic because, yes, WCW is still on top here, but the change has begun. The in-ring product that WWF was putting out at this time has surpassed WCW, even if the ratings and the money aren't quite showing that. And time has been far more kind to the WWF, even if the finances and the ratings weren't as much at this era. So it just goes to show what we're going to be seeing long term. The pendulum is beginning to swing back to the WWF's favor.
Yep, absolutely. No, you're right. I couldn't rattle off any of the matches on Bash of the Beach off the top of my head, but yeah, everybody knows Canadian Stampede for basically being a one-match show. But out of 4 matches, 1 match steals the show, and the rest you can kind of skip. But we're going to cover one of them here tonight.
I disagree, dude. I think it's 4
I'm sorry.
all-star matches, top to bottom.
I'm sorry. I don't agree with that. I do think that the opening match was good, and I do think the closing match is good, but the middle two, not so much.
Okay.
But,
all right, we'll talk about it.
But anyway, yeah, we'll get to that. So, it takes place on July 7th from the Saddle Dome in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. For those of you Lance Storm fans out there, it's really interesting. Again, they're going international here again. I use air quotes on that, to Canada. I guess that's their thing. In July, they go to Canada for.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, obviously.
So they didn't want to call this international incident 2 because why would you want to? It's like polishing up a turd again and calling it something fun. I don't know. Anyway, that was a bad analogy. But anyway, let's start out with our breakdown here of it. Raw 213 on June 9th. This is night after King of the Ring. Farouk fires Crush and Savio Vega from the Nation here I think it's the beginning of the show. And he's going to challenge the 2 people he hates the most to a tag match next week on Raw. And apparently the 2 people he hates the most in life are The Undertaker and Ahmed Johnson. So that's about all the build we get for this. Again, this is supposed to be building up Undertaker and Ahmed Johnson. It's supposed to be the main event here, or the D.O.A title match here at Canadian Stampede. So, that's what we get as far as that episode of Raw.
Yeah, Undertaker not on the night after King of the Ring. No. He's WWF champion, and they really don't even allude to what happened the night after, or at the end of King of the Ring with Ahmed Johnson hitting the Pearl River Plunge on the Undertaker. It's kind of just glossed over here as we focus in more on Brett and Austin and Shawn Michaels and all of that sort of stuff, and we do see the firing of Savio and Crush from the Nation, which is going to play into this build-up as well. But not much happening on that show, and there's going to be a lot that happens on the next couple shows, though. So it's going to make up for it. And that takes us to Raw 214, June 16th, 1997, and Farouk has promised 2 bigger, badder, and blacker members of the Nation of Domination to replace Farouk and Savio Vega in the main event. It's going to be a mystery until we get there, till Farouk and his mystery partner take on Undertaker and Ahmed Johnson.
So he wasn't happy with the amount of melatonin in their skin or something? I mean, what's the deal? He was just like, or melanin, I mean, not yeah, he's like, he's almost pulling a race card there too, like we got to get somebody blacker. So I don't understand, man. It's weird. But yeah, there's still got these racial overtones. We thought that the White Savior, the Undertaker, had solved race relations in the World Wrestling Federation, but apparently not.
Apparently not.
Still, Farouk's not letting it die. So it's going on here. So yeah, he promises to debut those 2 new members, and the main event of the show is Farouk and one of the mystery partners, which is going to be Kama. Of course, already seen him. Yeah. As the Supreme Ultimate Fighting
Machine. Yes, one of the Undertaker's rivals, and he gets no reaction at all when he comes out. Just, I don't know if the crowd forgot about him or just dead crowd as he comes out. And this is we got a little promo before the match as well with Paul Bearer talking to Ahmed and Farouk, and Paul Bear's trying to put, remember he's still got the Undertaker under his control at this point. He's trying to assert some power over Ahmed Johnson, and Ahmed Johnson is not having that at all, yelling at Paul Bear to get out of his face, and he's going to do his own thing here. And, if you've watched wrestling at all, you probably know where this angle is going, that we don't know who the next man in Nation Domination is going to be, but we've seen all this tension with Ahmed Johnson. You kind of put 2 and 2 together that he's going to end up turning on The Undertaker, but it was still pretty shocking, I think, because Ahmed and Farouk had such a bitter blood feud for so long, to think that he would join forces with Farouk. Even though it seems a little obvious, I still think there was a little bit of a shock value there, as we see at the end of this match.
Oh, definitely. And I can't wait to get to his explanation because it makes no sense. But, yeah, so again, this main event is Farouk and Kama versus, like you said, no reaction. These next few episodes of Raw, we're going to see lots of new talent debut on Monday Night Raw and in the World Wrestling Federation. It's almost like, Raw after WrestleMania, these last few weeks have been here in the actual product. We got all these new call-ups and NXT and stuff. It feels like that, except none of these guys matter. But...
Kama...
storyline-wise they do, but I don't know. I mean, Kama is a Hall of Famer, so I take that back.
Good point.
But
he gets a friggin' clean pin over The Undertaker here to win the match.
With a rock bottom. He gets a rock bottom on Undertaker and then gets a pin. Because
over the
Undertaker
WWF champion.
Yeah. He never got to tag in Ahmed Johnson. That was kind of the story. I don't really remember why, but I don't think Ahmed ever tagged in that match, which will play into what happens afterward. But yeah, Kama comes back, no reaction. It gets gives a rock bottom, which before it was called that, to Undertaker and pins him 1, 2, 3, clean in the middle of the ring. It was so strange.
Well, I think Kama was in the old Bone Street crew, so maybe Undertaker was giving a little favor, giving a little rub to his buddy right there.
Yeah, didn't mind doing the job ski to him, so didn't mind. They're boys. So, but it was strange, man. It's just weird. I just wrote, wow, that's just crazy. After that, we got the big turn, whose side is he on? Going back to Bash the Beach 96. Is he the third man? Is he the third
man? Will he be the next man? On commentary during the match, the announcers are wondering who is the new Nation member going to be, and they list off these notables as potential ideas. They talk about Mr. Hughes, who we've talked about on this show, who wants to do with The Undertaker. Butch Reed, Ron Simmons' former partner, back in the days of Doom. Junkyard Dog, who's probably 50-something years old at this point. And my favorite, Abdullah the Butcher as a potential Nation of Domination member. God, what I would have paid to have seen Abdullah the Butcher in the Nation of Domination.
Man, can you imagine that? That would have been incredible, man.
I'd pay almost as much as we paid to eat at his House of Ribs after WrestleMania 27.
I was gonna say we'll talk about him on this show when we get to WrestleMania 27. So, that was money well spent. I think I'm still deciding. So,
can you imagine
those are some notables.
Undertaker Abdullah casket match?
Oh my word! It had to have been a triple wide, triple deep casket for that. Golly, man, mega stuff Oreo, mega stuff casket for that. Gee, man. So yeah. Ahmed turns heel, hits a Pro River plunge again on Undertaker, and he joins the Nation at the top of the ramp. He comes up and puts his fist in the air just like they do. So it's Farouk, Kama, Ahmed, and D'Lo Brown at this point. Which again, you mentioned the other week that D'Lo finally has a name, and I think he had wrestled his first match fairly recently. So again, you've gotten away from. There's no more PG-13. There's basically no more white guys in the Nation. And Clarence Mason's gone too. I don't know what happened to him. They just disappeared.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's how
it seems
all goes
like
off the air that way. I think.
Yeah, it does, and it seems like we're headed pretty clearly towards The Undertaker versus Ahmed Johnson for the WWF Championship, and it's pretty wild to think about a heel Ahmed Johnson challenging The Undertaker. They're trying something different, no doubt about it, and. Ahmed Johnson leads off the next week, June 23rd, Raw 215. He leads the new Nation of Domination out, and he's going to try to do what Farouk did not do and take out The Undertaker, man. He cuts a heck of a promo here.
No, man. I really need subtitles, dude. It is incredible. Oh, man. I have no idea what he says half the time. I had to go rewind it and just listen to the stuff he says. It really is like Scott Steiner doing math, so it's amazing.
Well, he said...
I'll tell you what. You and your superhero, The Undertaker. I ain't got no respect for get enough. Just remember the tattoo, because you will see it again.
What does it mean you're going to see it again? What does that even mean? All you have to do is
I
look in
don't
the
know.
mirror.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
He sounds like he's got peanut butter on the roof of his mouth, and he's trying to get it off. It's just ridiculous.
Dude, he said it with such intensity and such charisma that I believe that Ahmed Johnson wanted to murder The Undertaker.
Yeah.
So I want to see him fight, man. I will be Ahmed Johnson's defender till the day I die. Dude, it might have been one of the worst matches of all time, but dang it, I wish we would have seen Ahmed Johnson and Undertaker. That is just one of those great mysteries to me, what might have happened there.
Yeah, I do too. I really wish we had seen it because we've already covered Vader here in January at Royal Rumble, so I really would have liked to have seen Ahmed. Plus, he's got this new energy. He's talking more, which is always a good thing. and can we just please talk about his upgraded attire?
Sure.
All right. He's got a brand new costume. No longer, he's taken off all the pads. No more pads. He doesn't have 1,000 pads on. His butt cheek's not hanging out. Now he has on black spandex pants. I mean, they fit like a wetsuit. They are just tight. He's got a black tank top, but it has 3 buttons, so it's very formal. Like a tank top. You ever see a tank top with 3 buttons on it?
I've never seen a tank top with buttons on it, period.
Yeah, he's got 3 buttons at the neck for a tank top. He's a little fancy, but he likes to work out, I guess. And then he's got a black leather skull cap on. It's got the same, colors like the green, yellow, and red like the rest of the Nation members have on. But it's got this leather skull cap. And then the best part of all is just a black leather fanny pack. He comes out on national television and stands in the ring and cuts his promo with this black leather fanny pack on. And it is just, it's an upgrade somehow from what he used to wear.
If that doesn't say business right there, dude, I don't know what does. He needs business.
That guy's going to murder the dead man. And I believe him if he's wearing that. So,
do you think the tightness of his outfit in any way, shape, or form led to the tragic injury that we're about to see happen?
I do. I believe his pants are so freaking tight. Again, they're like a wetsuit, man. They're ridiculous.
Maybe so.
I think that's what happens here because, again, we've got this promo opening up Raw, and then I mentioned last week's episode, as a fan, I wondered, I missed this episode of Raw. I came in after this episode. I didn't understand how all this happened and how we got the D.O.A. and the Los Boricuas, which I still don't know how to spell that. I've seen it spelled like 5 different ways. Even on WWF television, I've seen it spelled differently. Just like, remember how WCW would spell Eddie Guerrero's name differently all the time?
Yeah.
It's like every other week he had different spelling. Anyway, so this promo's going on, and out comes Crush to introduce the Disciples of Apocalypse. And we got some gang wars here. They come out on motorcycles, I believe, here. And it's amazing. If you just put someone on a motorcycle and rev it, the crowd will cheer.
They're over, man.
They love it. You got Skull and 8-Ball, who are the Harris brothers, Ron and Don Harris. They have many, many, many gimmicks. And they've been in every major company.
They've been everywhere. ECW, WCW, TNA, WWE.
Yeah,
they're literally everywhere.
They have their own company right now, Aero Lucha. They're running shows, so yeah, good for them.
And they've never had a good match, never drew a dime in their lives.
Nope, but they've been involved in lots of stuff. So they got them, and then is it Brian Lee, the other guy with them?
Yeah,
Brian Lee,
Undertaker. Yeah,
who again we've covered here. But it's just amazing. These guys are over immediately. They come out on motorcycles and rev them, and they're over. It's so great.
Of course, Jim Cornette used to say, you put somebody in a box, take them out of the box, they're over. You put somebody on a motorcycle, they're over.
Absolutely.
Except for Chuck Palumbo.
Yeah, whatever. He was over with you and me before that. He was that's actually what put him not over with me, was him getting it had the opposite. Anyway, we'll get to him eventually here on this podcast. So but yeah, we got gang wars here, Gang wars are starting here on Monday Night Raw, so pretty cool. And I think later on in the episode, Paul Bearer and Undertaker are backstage, and they're going to have a little interview. Is it Michael Cole that interviewed? I can't remember who it was that's going to interview.
I think Michael Cole debuted the next week.
Okay, somebody, maybe Todd Pettengill. Anyway, they go to interview him, and basically Paul Bearer just tells Undertaker to shut up.
Sometimes in life, Just shut up! It's all about me, Undertaker! It's about what I tell you to do, when I tell you to do it, and what I say!
He gets choked for his first trouble there. Again, he's still got his Undertaker under his thumb. He's got this secret hanging over his head, which he hasn't revealed yet. But Undertaker's still doing his bidding and, has succumbed to his power, as we mentioned in last week's episode. So,
well, what's going on right there is Undertaker and Vader are supposed to be teaming up in the Tag Team Championship tournament, which this tag team tournament is one of the weirdest tournaments you'll ever see in your life. We'll put the picture of the bracket up on our Facebook because, like I said, you've got Undertaker, the champion, with Vader, and they're in this tag team tournament against Farouk and D'Lo Brown. And then also in this tag team tournament are Jerry Lawler and Rob Van Dam as a tag team. This is just one of the weirdest things you'll ever see. But yeah, Taker is upset that Paul Bear is still trying to control him. He starts to choke out Vader, and Paul Bear starts screaming, "The fire! Remember the fire!" And Taker storms off frustrated. So we're continuing to sow the seeds of this whole Kane storyline, and they're gonna come to harvest next week in a tremendous way. But this whole thing, I kind of thought about. Remember the Daniel Wyatt angle from a couple years ago where Daniel Bryan had to join the Wyatt family and was controlled by them for a few weeks? It kind of reminded me of that in this sense. The Undertaker is being forced to be in there with these heels, and it's really frustrating because it seems like they should be doing more with the Undertaker, and they're kind of cutting his legs out from underneath them, but it's building up to something big when he's finally going to turn on Paul Bear and these guys, and he's going to get a tremendous pop from doing that. So it's building up to something big from that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good comparison to the Daniel Bryan Wyatt family thing. So, because that payoff was phenomenal. So back then, I'll never forget that episode. So not a lot of memorable stuff nowadays, but I'll never forget that. But anyway, just like this storyline is hard to forget. Like you said last week, probably the best soap opera storyline WWF has ever done. Again, because it goes on for years and years, and there's so much material they can get out of it. So, again, this main event you said is Undertaker and Vader versus the Nation. But again, Ahmed Johnson, the new member, is nowhere to be found out here with the Nation because in that brawl earlier with the Disciples of Apocalypse, he tore his ligament in his knee, I believe it was. So again, it could have been his pants. Could have been, I don't know. Maybe he should have had just his pads on. Who knows? But yeah, he's bad luck, man. This dude's had more in and outs than. It's like, remember when Randy Orton first debuted and he had like 2 or 3 injuries back to back? It's very similar to that. Trying to push this guy to the moon, trying to get him big push, and he keeps getting injured. So, and this
was pretty much the end of it. Him turning on Undertaker last week was pretty much the high point, the peak of his push, and it's all downhill from here. Sadly, in my opinion, I always wish they could have done more with Ahmed, but that's going to be just about it. Just about do it for him, even though we'll see him a couple more times. It's not going to get much out of it, which, this is wild. They're pretty much rebooking this show, rebooking this pay-per-view in the middle of all of this. I mean, they know Ahmed Johnson is hurt. They have no idea what that means, but he's slotted in for the championship match. So I'm not sure how much of what we see with this Vader angle was supposed to happen, is booked on the fly, is booked as a backup plan, is booked as the new A plan going forward. But kudos to them for being able to pull something out of their butts right here to save this pay-per-view and to make something out of it.
Absolutely. And again, we keep talking about how this new era here on Raw and everything, it's got so many intertwining stories and people are, having multiple storylines with multiple people. Thank God for that, because if it just been Undertaker and Ahmed and he got hurt, they would have had nothing to do. But luckily he's got this, thing with Paul Bear who has Vader, with him and stuff. So, I mean, it happened to just work out that way. So I'm glad they have all this extra, storylines going on with everybody. So yeah, it worked out, because here in this main event, I think Undertaker hits Vader, right? And then Vader gets pinned by
a clothesline.
From Farouk. Yeah, it's just ridiculous, man. So, but the Nation's picking up some big wins. They got a win over the WWF champion the week before and a win over what's now going to become his number one contender, the next night. So, good on them. They're getting a push too, all of them. So,
well,
I guess
after the loss, Paul Bearer starts screaming at Undertaker. He's upset at him. He's ruined their chance for the tag team titles. Undertaker tries to just walk away in peace, but then Vader attacks him, and Undertaker just scoops up Vader and tombstones him like a boss, man. Just drops him down like nothing. Paul Bearer runs away, but then he grabs the mic and sets up next week's show by saying, "You've made your casket, dead man, and next week you're going to lie in it because I'm going to tell the whole world your secret, and that's going to be it. You wait and you'll see." But Undertaker basically tells him to bring it on, does the throat slash, rolls his eyes in the back of his head, and walks away, setting up a huge angle for next week's Raw.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, think about it. We're talking about this is Monday Night Wars. This is WCW versus WWF. You've got to hook your viewers for the next week. This is episodic television. That's a term they throw around nowadays, but it really was back then. You're in a war with another company. You've got to hook your viewers for the next week, and it's really cool to see how they actually do that. Just coming from like a television show side, because when you watch a TV show, you want them to leave you with something hanging at the end to tune in next week, whatever it might be, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, This Is Us, I don't know, all the big shows are on nowadays, there's something they leave you with to want you to tune in next week, and that's what WWF is doing right here. Just like WCW is pretty much ended with some kind of NWO thing every week, and they want you to tune in next week to see what happens. That's what they're doing here, and it's really cool to see them do that. So next week on Raw, which will be Raw 216 on June 30th, was supposed to be the big reveal here. And I just want to say, this show opens up with, this is a quote from Vince McMahon on commentary, "with the most boisterous and loyal fans here in Des Moines, Iowa." So when you think of hotbeds of wrestling for the WWF specifically, or literally any promotion, do you think of Des Moines, Iowa?
Number one.
No offense to that. I mean, I'm sure it's a great town, but the most boisterous and loyal fans. I just thought that was such a hyperbole. It's amazing. So, but they do get some D.O.A. chants going on later on. We'll talk about here in a minute.
It's not a bad crowd. I mean, they put up really a good case. The show opens with a cool video package narrated by JR. It's kind of telling the whole story of Undertaker and Paul Bearer going back to their debut, to Taker's first match, and they show the SummerSlam incident, the Fireball, all this stuff, all this history. We're talking 7 years worth of history is leading up to this moment, which is awesome. That's never happened before. There's never been that sort of long-term storytelling that we get to see between two guys. There are guys that have been in the WWE for that long, or the WWF back then, but not two guys just consistently intertwined with each other that we've gotten to see. Maybe like Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, like a little bit, what they had kept going back and forth with each other for a long time, but not to that same level that we're seeing of Paul Bearer and Undertaker, and all that history. It pays off.
Oh yeah, it does. It's a really cool video. Again, it gives it that soap opera feel, because that's what wrestling is supposed to be. It's a male soap opera, basically. The guys just fight each other, but it really gives it that cool, soap opera. And like you said, it's a cool long form story. They give all the backstory here, and it's just really, really neat. Again, it catches you up if you missed the last 7 years of WWF, and you just turned it on. You're like, oh, I remember Hulk Hogan. He was cool. Let me turn on Monday Night Raw tonight. You got recapped, and honestly, it sells you. It sells you on the feud. Like, you want to know what happens next, because tonight we're going to get the big secret. So, I mean, what a great job on their part, But there's, to change pace here a little bit, there's an interview with Ahmed Johnson after knee surgery this week. And he probably was on, like, pain medication, but he talks like this normally anyway. So I can't really tell if it was the meds or the peanut butter on the roof of his mouth. I don't know which it was, but he claims that the Undertaker sent the D.O.A. to actually injure him, which I thought this would explain the biker taker that we're going to see 3 years later, Yes. If in fact that was the case, and I don't think that ever came up again, but I just happened to think to myself, well, if Undertaker did send them, that explains why he's a biker taker in a few years. So What an opportunity.
I was taken aback when he said that. I thought that was so interesting. He says, the Undertaker sent the D.O.A to attack him, and when he comes back, he's going to go after the Undertaker again. And I thought, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if he was kind of going off on his own right there with that. But I don't know if you caught it, but Farouk said the same thing when he came out and cut a promo.
Yeah.
As far as the D.O.A, whatever it is, they ain't nothing but disciples of the Undertaker. The Undertaker knew his time was limited. He knew that Ahmed Johnson was going to kick his butt and in your house. That's why he sent D.O.A out here to sabotage him.
So I think they were thinking of doing something like that, of teasing some sort of alliance between Undertaker and D.O.A, because everyone else is in a faction. Everyone else has guys that are backing them up in this time, in this day and age. So maybe they were really thinking of aligning Undertaker with those guys. And he was friends with all those guys. And they could have... I think there was some talk. I've never seen that or read that before, and I didn't remember that at all. But for them to mention it twice in the same show, there had to be something to that. So there had to be some sort of inkling that they might have gone with something like that, which would have been really interesting.
Oh, I agree. There had to have been something. It wasn't just a coincidence that both these guys said it. There had to have been some kind of talk about it. But again, I'm kind of glad it didn't happen.
Oh, me too.
But it would have been strange.
It would have. It would have been too much.
But it would have made sense, I guess, from a storyline part. But anyway, I just thought it was neat. I'm glad we both pointed that out. So later on, I guess, is this still part of the tag team tournament? Or is Nation beats the Legion of Doom?
I think so.
Yeah. Which again, they pinned the Undertaker, they pinned his number one contender Vader, and now they beat the Legion of Doom, aka the Road Warriors, arguably the greatest tag team in history of professional wrestling. If you went off their WWF transcript, you wouldn't be able to tell that. But go back to the NWA days; they're the best tag team ever, in my opinion. But again, they're getting a huge push here. They're beating all these guys. So Farouk says that he says it's not fair that Ahmed's in the Nation and he lost his spot as the number one contender. It should be somebody else in the Nation. He says it should be me or Kama or even D-Lo. I was like, I'll sell D-Lo short, but I thought it was funny. It's like, or even D-Lo here. But he says, the reason that it's not one of us, it's Vader's because he's white. He's a white guy and we're black. So he again still bringing that race card here.
He's kind of got a point though. Like it makes more sense for Farouk to get that shot than Vader does. I mean, Vader's been doing nothing, and Farouk's not even on the show. He's not even on Canadian Stampede. Right. So I don't know. Yeah, I agree. Kind of got a point.
He did have a point. And again, the best heels always have a little bit of truth to their.
That's right.
Their stories. So that's what makes them good heels. So anyway, it was he's going racial here again, and but right after this, we get Savio Vega comes out in a white pants and a white shirt with black suspenders, and this is the debut of Los Boricuas, and we got more gang warfare here. And I think D.O.A comes out too, and they have a huge brawl, I believe. And this is where the crowd's like, D.O.A, D.O.A. I was just like, oh man, D.O.A is over. You put a jobber on a bike, he is over.
That's all it takes.
That's it, man. So
well, I mean, we talked about the gang wars. We've talked about Ahmed Johnson. We've talked about Farouk. Let's talk about why we're really here. Yes. Let's talk about the highlight of this show. Let's talk about Paul Bearer revealing the secret. They go back and forth backstage with some stuff with Paul Bearer and The Undertaker. They're teasing it all throughout the show. The Undertaker says backstage that he's warning the fans that you're going to hear a slanted version of the truth. Paul Bearer is going to try and poison your mind about the events of this horrible night in his past, and he is showing a completely different side. Undertaker is somber, he's quiet, he's showing emotions we've never seen him show before. So this is grabbing your attention for Paul Bearer to finally come out. Vince McMahon brings him out. Go ahead.
I want to say this is also in that blue bathroom we talked about the other week. So, but I would say wrestlers aren't generally regarded as good actors, But I'm not gonna lie, Undertaker did a good job here, man. He really did a good job acting this out, just from a human standpoint. He just he didn't rush through it. He took his time. Like, it seemed authentic, like it was a real thing. I just really thought that was really neat. But the point I wanted to make is when you said that Vince brought Paul Bearer out. Again, he brings him out at the top of the hour of Warzone. You know, you get the brand. Raw's off. Now it's Warzone. Again, think about that. They've hooked you in. You got to tune into the beginning of the second hour of Raw. Don't watch Nitro because here you are. You're going to get the big reveal we've been waiting for. I just think that's smart, coming from a television aspect. You've got to get the viewers in, and they knew what they're doing. Because, again, I'm not going to watch Nitro if I'm watching this. I want to see what the Undertaker's secret is, So.
Well, talk about changing channels and tuning into this, what we're about to see. These promos from Paul Bearer and The Undertaker. I mean, we've never seen anything like this in, well, I mean, I'm not going to say ever. I don't know. I mean, I know WWF, I know WCW, and I know I've never seen anything like this sort of storytelling, this sort of storyline. It's not, somebody hates this other guy or somebody stole this other guy's girl or something like that. This is a soap opera storyline. This is Vince Russo at his peak, at his best, at his most creative. Pritchard, all these guys working together. Can you imagine seeing, Monday Night Raw's on, wrestling is on, or just going through the channels and you're seeing Paul Bearer tell this story of the Undertaker's family and the funeral home burning to the ground, or the Undertaker and when he gives his 10-minute monologue. Can you imagine flipping through the channels and thinking, what the heck is this?
I know.
I thought wrestling was two guys in spandex putting a sleeper hold on each other. What am I watching? And I mean that in a great way, because this is incredible. This promo is amazing. Both guys. Undertaker's acting is great. Paul Bearer is off the charts here. We put clips in the show. I would love to just put this whole clip in there, but you should go on YouTube, go on the network, watch this promo where Paul Bearer reveals the secret that he's been carrying around with the Undertaker. I can't praise it enough, The
it's
gist
so good, man.
The gist of it is... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, again, his acting from this... Since he's been basically Percy Pringle, since he got quote-unquote burned, his acting and his over-the-top and smugness and arrogance and his theatrics have gotten even better than they were when he was with The Undertaker. We talked about, especially in our early episodes, how on the outside of the ring, he was kind of a key in helping Undertaker through his matches and just kind of being there and being over-the-top. But this guy, ever since he got quote-unquote burned, man, he's just been on another level, man. I would challenge wrestlers from nowadays to go back and watch this stuff and see how to act, and see how to cut a promo, man. 'Cause this guy, he kills it. And right before he gets in the ring, this fan runs in and, tackles him. Was that a shoot or a work? I can't tell.
I think it was a shoot, but it works perfectly because...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Paul Bearer was trying to take any extra bumps.
No, she was
he
dressed
tackles
like
him to the ground.
Goth person too, and they're like, "Oh, it must have been a creature of the night." So, I mean, it must have been. I think it was a shoot. I can't, if any of you out there listeners know, let us know. But I couldn't find anything.
If you were
about
her,
it. Yeah, he gets tackled. If you were her, if you were there in Des Moines, Iowa.
So yeah, I mean, Paul Bearer tells this story about being an apprentice at a funeral parlor to a family where the dad is the mortician, the mom is the secretary. There's two little kids running around. One's a little redheaded punk, and the other is a sweet little boy named Kane. And, Paul Bearer really was a mortician. He was a licensed mortician, and my wife grew up around a funeral home. Her mom was a secretary at a funeral home, and I showed this promo to her, and you could just tell Paul Bearer wrote a lot of this himself. He was throwing in little details and things about the funeral home. It was just very, very funny to hear the way she's talked about growing up in a funeral home, and to hear him talk about this. There were a lot of parallels there, but basically Undertaker and Kane ran around like crazy kids, and one night Paul saw them taking some chemicals out of the embalming room and smoking cigarettes around them, but he had to go to night school because he was working on his degree.
I came back from school. about 10 o'clock that night, and what do I see? I see fire trucks. I see ambulance. I see steam and smoke. And I see the funeral home in ashes. Someone burned down the funeral home. Inside the funeral home was this lovely family that took care of me. I looked over to the bushes. Who did I see in the bushes but the Undertaker? Undertaker, you burnt the funeral home to the ground. And along with the funeral home, you killed your parents. You killed your family, Undertaker. I know it. I've had this secret on my inside all my life. 20 years.
And the Undertaker is a murderer, by God. He's a murderer.
Yeah, he yelling murderer at him, and then he drops a GD murderer on a PG television show. I was just like, what? Unbleeped or anything. Just says, you're a GD murderer. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So again, selling that intensity and the importance of it again, because nobody sold it like Paul Bearer does here, man. It was incredible. Really, really cool promo. Again, Undertaker is in the building that night, so he's going to give us his spin on it in just a few minutes here.
The thunder cracks and the lightning flashes, too, as we go to commercial. So
yeah,
the emotions of the Undertaker are affecting the atmosphere, I guess.
Yeah. So we go to the back and we see Vader kind of congratulating Paul Bearer on this reveal, I guess. And then even later on in the show, we get the blue bathroom again. And Undertaker's going to get his chance. And he says that, it is true. His parents and his brother died in the fire. And, he and Kane were playing with matches. And his dad reprimanded him. His dad told him that he's the older brother. He should be more responsible. He has a little brother that looks up to him. He knows the right from wrong. And so later on, he sees Kane with the flammable embalming fluid. And Undertaker has to go do chores. And so when he was thinking of Undertaker doing chores, was he like building caskets? Maybe that's where he learned all this stuff from.
Of course.
Yeah. So he comes back from his chores and he returns to see the funeral home on fire. So he runs toward it, and the firefighters are holding him back as he watches his home burn to the ground with his parents and his brother inside, or so he thinks. And he says,
"Yes, Paul, it's true. I wasn't at the funeral. But you didn't care to explain to the people why that was. That 2 nights before, during the middle of the night, you drugged me to the neighboring funeral home so that I could see my family. Till this very day, the image of my mother laying on that table as you pulled that sheet back and I look at the burnt and charred body of the most wonderful woman that had ever walked on this earth laid there. The air escaped from my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to be sick. But you insisted. You insisted that this small boy in the middle of the night go and look at the charred remains of what 2 days earlier was his family.
Again, this is a wrestling television show we're watching here.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, no. And this ain't your mama's wrestling. This ain't Hulk Hogan and Bruno Sammartino or Luthez. So, he says, Paul Bearer made me look at the charred bodies of my family, and I had to look at death to understand death. I had to face death to really understand it. And he said that when I did, I realized that without death. There cannot be life. That changed him forever, and he had to choose a path. And somehow that leads to him drawing his strength from the fear of his dead family. That's how he wraps up his part of the story here.
Both sides of the story. We hear the Undertaker's side. We hear Paul Bearer's side. You don't know what to think, but you think, okay, well, you're thinking, okay, Undertaker's obviously telling the truth. He's going to get some revenge on Paul Bearer, but yet we're going to take another twist here.
Right.
As Vader takes on Rockabilly.
That'll put butts in the seats.
If I have to hear Rockabilly's theme song one more time on these episodes of Raw, I'm going to shoot my TV like Elvis did back in the day.
It is strange to go from this soap opera stuff about death and burn flesh to Rockabilly's theme music, because there's no commercials on the network. Straight to the next scene, which is Rockabilly. So anyway,
a little bit jarring.
This match, excuse me, easy for me to say. This match lasts about 24 seconds before Undertaker comes like Meatloaf bat out of hell, man. He comes running from the back and
don't skip over Rockabilly whacking Vader with a guitar and Vader no-selling it.
Yeah.
That was great.
No sells the guitar shot. This is beautiful. He knows it as well. So, yeah. Well, then he gets a guitar shot he no sells. 23 seconds later, Undertaker runs out like a bat out of hell. And he should have had his bat wings from Survivor Series. Anyway, he comes out. This is like a human Undertaker at this point. There's no dead man here. He's just beating the crap out of Vader. Just unleashing the fury on him, and Bear is screaming on the outside the whole time, "Murderer! Murderer! Murderer!" Just screaming at him and like winking at the camera and stuff. He's all over it, man. He's loving it. So then what happens next?
Well, then Taker starts slapping Paul Bearer around, saying, "Tell the truth. I'll kill you if you don't tell the truth." I mean, we are taking this to another level.
Let me just say, I didn't go to law school, but if you're on trial for or being accused of murder, you probably shouldn't threaten to kill someone.
I mean, that's a good point. But Paul Bearer says, "I am telling the truth because Kane told me. Kane told me." Undertaker keeps slapping him around, and Paul Bearer finally screams, "Kane is alive! Kane is alive!" And the Undertaker is just in shock. This finally takes him aback, as this storyline, like we said, goes to another level. We're not just talking about events of the past. We're not just talking about a deep, dark secret buried in the Undertaker's closet. We're talking about the mystery of the Undertaker's brother, who now we know was burned and horribly mangled in that fire, but is actually alive. And what does that mean? What is going on? How... this match at Canadian Stampede is an afterthought because we want to know what is happening. It's a storytelling on a completely different playing field.
Yeah, and like you said, one of the great things about Russo era is this kind of stuff, but this is also about 3 or 4 weeks worth of storytelling crammed into one episode of Raw, you know?
That's absolutely
true.
But
But yeah, because we could have had the Kanes alive at the pay-per-view, found that out there. But again, it definitely made you want to tune in and find out, not because he's fighting Vader, but because Undertaker's going to be around Paul Bearer at the pay-per-view, 6 days later. So yeah, really cool story. Has nothing to do with Ahmed Johnson at that point. This is the meat and potatoes of the Undertaker again. His whole life storyline wise is built up to this big reveal. He thought his brother was dead all these years, and now he's not, allegedly. So we'll see what happens here.
We will. So let's talk about Canadian Stampede. Let's be the only podcast ever that talks about this match from Canadian Stampede, not the main event, because that's what we're doing. We're going through every Undertaker match, and absolutely,
yeah, man.
Everyone in the world should go watch that match at least once with the Hart Foundation versus the All-Americans here. Just the most incredible off-the-charts heat you'll ever see. A 5-star performance, one of the best top 10 WWF matches of all time. Everybody go watch that. And apparently we have some differing opinions on whether you should watch this match. So let's talk about it. And we've got Vince, JR, and The King on commentary, kind of your standard announced team for the time.
Vince in a purple shirt and a Western vest. And then you got Jerry Lawler, who has a Garth Brooks button-up shirt, basically. One of those that Garth Brooks would have worn on, like, his No Fences album or something. And he's got a big leather Turd Ferguson, cowboy hat on. It looks like Norm Macdonald from SNL, like the Turd Ferguson hat.
It's so good.
It's so ridiculous. There's only 4 matches on this pay-per-view because the last one's like 40 minutes long.
Right.
In this match, the WWF title match is 3rd out of 4. Again, there's no need to put it on last. It wouldn't have mattered. There's certain times you just put on the championship match takes a backseat to whatever else is going on. We've talked about that here before. You should have the championship match on last out of respect, but here, no, man.
Oh, yeah.
Bret Hart was Superman here, and he had to go on last. So
no question.
Yeah. Right before this match, so I want to talk about it backstage. Did you catch this interview with Doc Hendricks?
With Doc Hendricks, of course.
Yeah. So he said,
I mean, how can you even look in the mirror at yourself? Doc Hendricks, looking in the mirror is the best thing that I do every morning, if you know what I mean.
and he winks at the camera. What is that? I don't know what you mean. What does that mean? There's so many things it could mean, like PG and X-rated. I'm not sure what he's talking about there, but it was weird, man.
I don't know. That's a great line, though.
Yeah.
I love it. He's just such a menacing person when he's telling these stories, calling Undertaker a murderer, but he's also just a goofball too, and just like almost Jim Cornette level, just like ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cocky,
then he talks about
guy.
Paul Bearer recaps Vader. Vader beat Undertaker at the Rumble earlier in January, and he says, it's going to be deja vu, Hendricks, deja vu.
And it's important that they brought that up because Vader has not been booked strong the past few months, and he hasn't had much success. He hasn't done much of anything since that Final Four match. He's gotten beat up by Ken Shamrock and been in jail in Kuwait. He's not been a top contender, so it's important that they brought up that he does hold a win over The Undertaker here to give him a little bit of credibility in this match that he's been slid into here. Undertaker comes out with his now standard lightning and thunder entrance, and Vader is spooked. Paul Bearer is hiding in the corner on the outside, and Jim Ross says, "Man, there's nowhere to hide when you're that fat."
He says it's kind of hard to hide when you're 400 pounds, and then Jerry Lawler says, "Well, you ought to know."
I love it.
Pop's huge for that. It was so good. He waits like 2 seconds. He goes, "Well, you ought to know." Oh man, so good. I missed him so much.
Oh yeah, me too.
Anyway,
Undertaker just kicks things off, just explodes on Vader for the first few minutes of this match, just squashing him. I didn't know Vader was ever going to get any offense in.
Well, I want to say that I think that's part of the problem with this match is because Vader, the more this match goes, the more winded you are anyway. But I think because Taker comes out as a melee, I think Vader was just blown up from the get-go, honestly. As Taker comes, leg drop, shoulder blocks, stinger splash, old school. All that is just boom, 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 boom. Diving, running, clothesline. And then Vader's sucking wind because right after all that takes about a minute and a half out of the match. Then Vader pulls a headlock on, and it is a rest hold, man. He is just sucking wind, dude. Because we talked about it. He's not the same Vader of 1992 wrestling Sting or Ric Flair or Steamboat or anything. He's got a little heavier in his day now, but I think that part of the reason I'm not as huge fan of this match is because I think it has a problem is because Undertaker comes out so hot and heavy, Vader can't recover.
Yeah, I see your point you're making. The crowd is into it, though. They are cheering for popping huge for everything Taker does, just unloading all this steam from all of these secrets and drama with Paul Bearer and everything going on for there. So they are just going off the charts here. But Paul Bearer is able to take over when he takes his loafer off and starts hitting the Undertaker with it. That's one of my favorite parts of the match.
That's awesome. So good. And
go ahead.
At this point in the match, Vader has been called, by the commentary, by all three of them, he's been called a grizzly bear, a mastodon, a buffalo, and then a minute later he's going to be called a baby bull. So they could have come out with like stuffed animal Vaders of all four of those.
He's the
I
whole
was like,
zoo.
what a marketing eye. Yeah, he is. Oh, man, I just thought it was interesting. Right before Paul Bearer beats him up with that shoe, he's like, they call him, he's waddling on the outside, that's what JR says. Waddling away like the penguin, I guess. So, anyway, it was pretty funny.
That is what it seems like. The shoe helps Vader kind of take over. There's massive heat. The crowd is off the charts here. Vader hits a big clothesline, and Taker barely kicks out of that. Vader does suplex, big splash, but he doesn't hook the leg and only gets 2. And then it goes into a nerve hold here, which is really just... I hate the nerve hold. The nerve hold's terrible.
It sucks.
It's crappy looking.
And this one looks really bad. And he is sucking wind. I mean, the hold is not even put on well.
It's not. It looks like he's just touching his shoulder. But guess what? The crowd goes nuts. They start stomping and cheering so much that the hard camera on the opposite side of the ring starts shaking. The entire arena is shaking because they're cheering on The Undertaker so much. So that move does exactly what it's supposed to do and get this crowd excited. And it looks stupid and it's boring, but guess what? It wakes the crowd all the way up. And
it sure does.
I've only seen that a few times in my life where the hard camera starts shaking. And this is one of those times, man. It's crazy.
So, yeah, it was really cool to see that because you're right. The crowd does come up for that like they're supposed to. And it was really neat to see. Again, this is like Bizarro World, man. This pay-per-view is so crazy. It's such a fun show to see, like just in a bubble, you know. It's just a fun show to be taking it in a bubble. So, really cool. And then after that, you know, Taker gets out with some flurry punches and he gets a thumb to the eye from Vader. And he doesn't really sell that too much. He fires up in the corner and goes for a choke slam. And Taker just low blows, kicks him, man, right in the beanbag. just
Vader,
kicks him low.
Vader kicked Taker.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Vader kicked Taker, right?
Yeah,
real low.
Yeah.
So
and JR is screaming like, "Why is there not a disqualification?"
Yeah. So we've seen that in a lot of Undertaker matches.
Yes.
Like should be DQs whether they're on the outside or low blows, and the ref won't call it. And for some reason, Tim White, which he'll come up again later on this podcast, he doesn't DQ him, and commentary wonders why. And I guess it comes back into play here in just a second because Undertaker attempts a tombstone and it gets reversed, and I think this reversal was strange.
Oh gosh.
This is the old flip over reversal where I'm gonna tombstone you, then we back flip over and you to me. But when they do it, Vader just kind of falls on his butt.
Oh yeah, they just go tumbling down. This is the only part in the match I really didn't like. I mean, obviously they just totally messed that up. Vader definitely winded at this point and can't pull that part off. But they keep going. Vader goes for the Vader bomb, but Undertaker is able to sit up and, like you said, get his payback. He hits a massive low blow on Vader and
punches him.
Just punches him, and then
which will come back later on in his Brock Lesnar matches from a few years ago.
That's true. He's going back to the well. That allows him to choke slam Vader off the second rope, which is just a huge bump.
Oh,
but it only gets a 2 count because he didn't hook the leg.
Exactly. Farouk can clothesline him and pin him, but a second rope choke slam. I know.
Paul Bear's on the outside just fanning himself with his handkerchief. He's just having a heart attack on the outside. I love it, man. So good. Undertaker
so good, man.
Goes for another choke slam.
That gets another 2 count. Yeah, another 2 count there. And then
the
throw slash.
They're saying no one's ever kicked out of 2 choke slams before.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know if that's true, but sounds good. It might be true.
JR says, by my recollection, I think is what he said, something like that. So he's not claiming it's the truth, but anyway, kicks out 2 choke slams, one of them off the second rope, and then Undertaker gives the old throat slash and hits the tombstone, and that gets us to 1, 2, 3 at 12 minutes and 39 seconds. So, Tremendous pop, by the way, when he wins.
Absolutely. He does the pose, and just the fact that he can do a tombstone on Vader. We've seen it a few times, but it blows my mind every single time he does it. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's props to Vader for being able to get up for that, too.
Sure.
Props to both guys.
Takes two.
I liked it, man. I liked it a lot better than the Royal Rumble match. I thought, much like the second Sid match that we saw, I thought they worked a much faster pace here. And yeah, I mean, Vader does get gassed a little bit, but I think the storytelling here with the big Undertaker going hard at first and Vader taking over and Undertaker doing these big moves on him and just really the whole atmosphere from the crowd. I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed watching it. And I guess you would give it probably more of a thumbs down.
Yeah, the atmosphere definitely made it for me. I mean, I enjoyed the match. It just wasn't – I actually enjoyed Royal Rumble better, but I would have enjoyed this match probably a whole lot less had the crowd not been the crowd it was. But, again, we're not here to criticize the in-ring quality. I hate to do that, but I just noticed from Jump Street, man, Vader was just gassed from the get-go. And I think it's because he was on the defense from the beginning. So it was just, I don't know, it was noticeable. I'm not picking on him, but it took it away from me. But I mean, it told a good story. Again, the story's not even with Vader. The story's with Paul Bearer, so it doesn't really matter, honestly, at the end of the day. But yeah, and even like after Undertaker poses at the end, Vince McMahon's like, does his brother really live? We'll find out at SummerSlam, if not earlier. So I guess he got some memo that Paul Bearer is going to tell us at SummerSlam. But he's just, again, he's a promoter. He's trying to sell next pay-per-view.
Oh, absolutely.
There you go.
And look, man, just to put a bow on it, I'll tell you this. I've advocated on here before. We both have. Vader deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. I hope it comes sooner than later. Godspeed to Vader and all his health issues that he keeps going through. We want to continue to lift him up in our thoughts and prayers, and hope that he keeps kicking out and gets to live to see himself go into the Hall of Fame. But even if you don't like this match, if you want to see why Vader is a Hall of Famer, look at his performance here, and then go back to the last week on Raw, where Jim Cornette brings out these two J-Brones called the Squad Team to debut against the Headbangers. Yeah, they were known as the Headhunters in one time. They are two guys of similar build to Vader, two giant, I don't know what they were, Black, Samoan, I'm not positive, two just enormous dudes.
They had chic boots on, like Xavier Woods wears now,
They come out in just the most embarrassing segment I've ever seen on Monday Night Raw. They come out trying to do stuff that Vader does with ease, trying to do these big splashes and moonsaults and stuff. And if you think Vader is gassed in this match, look at these two guys after doing one high spot on Raw and one run. They are falling over themselves, just gasping for air. No charisma, no intensity, and it just goes to show you how incredible Vader is, that he does what he does at his size. It takes someone very, very special to do that. You can't just grab any fat guy off the street and throw him in there to try to do what he's doing. Compare him with those guys, and you'll see why Vader deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Sure, he's got his flaws especially in his WWF career, but just that is the shining example right there.
Yeah, you're right. Those guys were trash. They were awful. I don't think they ever showed up again.
No,
really
that was
much. That was it. Again, they debuted on those episodes of Raw. Los Pericos had new members. D.O.A. had new members. We got all this new talent on Raw, and honestly, none of them are memorable.
No.
Anyway, those guys were turds in the bunch bowl, man. But yeah, Vader's the man. Again, I don't want to harp on. It just took away from me for this particular match, but probably because I held him to such a high standard, because I know what he is capable of, and it just may have been an off night, So it's not, I don't want our listeners to think I'm knocking on him. I'm not. It's just, I have him in my expectations are super high for Vader matches. So it's good stuff. But check it out. Check out this pay-per-view. It's a great pay-per-view. The opening match tells us we could do a whole podcast about that feud. Honestly, it's fantastic.
Sure.
So, Anyway,
It
yeah, the
flies
main
by.
event.
Yeah. Go check it out if you've never seen it. Go check out the Paul Bearer and Undertaker promos from Raw on June 23rd, 97, Raw 216. Go check that out and let us know. Hit us up on Twitter. We'll put a poll up on what you thought of this match, Undertaker versus Vader, Canadian Stampede. I liked it. Travis, not so much. Let's see where you fall on it. Let's see who you agree with. Prove one of us right over there. Follow us at Talking Taker and on Instagram and Facebook as well. We'll be putting up all the videos, pictures, promos, stuff leading up to the match, fun stuff like that. Clips from WWF Magazine I've been putting up on there.
Yeah,
a lot
cool
of fun stuff, man. Go check it out. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well at Alex Doriot. Of course, if you want to support the show, the best thing you can do is let people know about it, retweet it, share it with your friends and your wrestling buddies. Leave us a review, leave us a comment, 5 stars, all that good stuff. And of course, you can support us monetarily. Go pick up a Talking Taker, Taker Easy t-shirt, or hey, you can pick up a Bury Me Softly Brother t-shirt as well. We threw those up in honor of the Casket Match and Rusev's fantastic infamous tweet over there. So you can pick up one of those silly little shirts over there at tpublic.com if you like. And man, we'll be back here next week covering a pretty big match with SummerSlam 97.
Oh yeah, good stuff coming up. Again, this latter part of 97 is some of my favorite stuff of all time. And again, this is right where I hopped in again, and I had to get to this next stuff we're getting to. So anyway, if you were there at Calgary, at the Saddle Dome, what a spectacle. If you were there, let us know. If you were stomping on the ground, shaking the hard cam, let us know. And ladies and gentlemen, most importantly, take her easy.
Undertaker! Undertaker! Slapping Paul Bearer! Paintbrush again! Tell him the truth! I'll kill you right now if you tell him the truth! Tell him the truth! Tell him the truth! Undertaker! Kane told me! Kane told me! What? Kane told me! Kane told me! No more! And the Undertaker! He's alive! Kane is alive, Undertaker! He's breathing! Just like everybody in this room! Kane's alive! I swear! It's the truth! It's the truth!